Well, yeah, I've been in AI before we even really called it AI. We called it pattern analysis and machine learning back in the late 80s and early 90s when I was writing my PhD dissertation. And so it brings a perspective of history and understanding that, AI has always been capable of all of the things that it seems to be surprising the world with now. Everybody's popping up and rightfully are astonished by the things that AI is able to do. But anyone who's been in the industry for a long time understood that this moment was coming, and it really brought it into strong focus for me in 2006 when cloud computing began to become a big thing. And the cloud really activated AI because all of the sudden it was so much easier to build powerful AI because we could put all of the data in the same place. Before the cloud, I don't know if you remember IBM's chess playing computer. It was literally this big mainframe on wheels that they would, wheel around. It had to have all of its computing resources in the same exact place. And the cloud has sort of blown that up. You can have literally um, exabytes of data uh, all within a few data centers collaborating and having the algorithms train on that data contiguously, and it stays where it is, and the AI can move about the world as it pleases. Well, for one, I understand, so I've worked for Google, I've worked for Microsoft, I've been a professor at a major university, I worked for the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Um, I have worked for, maybe I'm just good at quitting, I don't know, but you meet a lot of people by changing jobs and changing industries and understanding, the depth of the problems that AI is now solving. And I've been talking about AI and predicting these moments for more than a decade. All of these data-rich environments like law and politics, medicine. If there's always this, are we are we curing cancer, slowly, or do we not want to cure it because it's more profitable to treat it than it is to cure it? All of these answers are gonna come. We are going to know, right? AI is chewing away at the cancer problem right now. And if cancer is still around in 5 to 10 years, it will be because it's more profitable to treat it. Because all of these data rich problems are going to be solved by AI. If the problem can be outlined with data, AI can solve it. And so I think the diversity of my background has really made me appreciate the range of problems that really are data rich and data intensive. And those problems have no chance against AI. And fortunately, one of them is climate change. Um, that is a data rich environment, and humans aren't able to see all of those pieces at once. AI can. And so I think we have a tool to solve really all of humanity's hard problems except perhaps war. We seem to be unwilling to solve that one ourselves. It's every area. I
Mm.
compare it to how the world moved from paper and ink to software. In the 80s and the early 90s, all companies were run with paper and ink. And even if there was some mainframe computer on the back end, all of the data began its life on paper and ink. And so when the reason the economy in the 90s was so amazing is because every single company in the world was spending money to transition their paper and ink processes to software. And we're facing that now. I mean, one of the really good news about AI is what it's going to do to juice the economy. And we all remember that economy in the 90s. It was roaring. Billionaires were being created from companies that didn't even exist a few years before, like Microsoft and Adobe and Dell. And we are facing that now, but instead of going from paper and ink to software, every company in the world is going from software to artificial intelligence. And they all have to do this. it's just like software was a huge advantage over paper and ink. AI is an even bigger advantage over software. And so you're going to see problems from large to small. I don't know if you remember in the 90s how software solved some problems, and then the next year it solved some more, and then the next year it solved some more. And by the time we got to the mid 2000s, pretty much everything had at least some decent solution. And now we're just starting that journey with AI. And by 2030, no one's going to be in a world of software anymore. It's all going to be in a world of artificial intelligence. Well, it's going to require a lot fewer humans to run a company on artificial intelligence than it will on software. And so, yes, AI will create new jobs, but it's going to take away a lot more. And it's going to take away white collar jobs. It's going to take away thinking jobs. It's going to take away information working jobs. And so that's good in the sense that, you take a company like Microsoft that has some 200 and some odd thousand employees. You give AI a decade, even a half a decade, they're going to need 100 and some odd thousand employees. And then at the end of by the 2035, Microsoft's only going to need 10, 12,000 people to run itself. Governments are going to need fewer people. There will be no giant corporations in terms of headcount. There will be giant corporations in terms of reach, in terms of profit, but not in terms of headcount. And so that amount of productivity is going to mean a lot of money. Imagine a company as profitable as Microsoft with 250,000 employees. Imagine that profit being multiplied by 10 or 20 and the number of employees divided by 100. And the profit per employee is going to be stunning. And so it's going to completely change the workplace because there's not going to be as many workers in those places. I don't know what we're going to do with all of this office space. We're going to have to turn it into housing, be creative. I'm not sure how part of my talk is to talk about how people make money in a world where we don't need them to work and we don't need them to be productive. How do governments sustain themselves when the tax base, let's face it, the really rich and the really poor don't pay taxes. It's those masses in the middle, the people who make $50,000 to $1,000 to $1 million a year. Those are the people who pay all the taxes that run all the governments, and those people won't have enough work, which means they won't pay those taxes. And so all of these things need to be discussed because it's not just the workplace that's going to change. It's the leisure place. All of these people with all of this time, we're already beginning to see how crowded our tourist destinations are becoming, particularly in Europe. European cities are being overrun. And all of these things are going to get worse. And so we spend a lot of time talking about this in the lectures that I give. I mean, what other industries? That's the question. AI is good at basically anything humans are good at. There's a fundamental difference between software and AI that I think people really need to understand to get the potential of AI into their head. AI can solve problems that are out of the reach of software. Software can only solve repetitive problems. If this, then that, right? That's it. AI can solve problems that ordinarily humans solve, right? For example, a traffic roundabout. You can't program a car to go through a traffic roundabout, but you can train it. And that's the main difference is software is programmed, humans are trained, and AI is trained just like humans. Artificial intelligence learns how to go through a roundabout by literally driving through that roundabout or watching the data of other cars driving through that roundabout, millions and millions and millions of times, and all of a sudden it can do it. One of the examples I like to give is recognition of a cat. Now, a human can look at a cat and say, oh, it's a cat. But we don't really understand how we know it's a cat. How do we know it's a cat and not a dog? How do we know it's a cat and not a weasel? How do we know it's a cat and not some other animal? How do we know it's a live cat and not a cat on television? How do we know, describe to me how you know it's a cat. We can't do it. And but we can train AI to recognize cats, and we don't know how AI recognizes cats either. We just know that it does. And so I think that there is no industry that humans are going to be uniquely good at that AI can't at least get really close. Most of them, it's just going to blow us away. The lawyers are doomed. It's all data. The lawyers' only hope is that they pass the laws that might keep their jobs safe. Who knows? But law, medicine, all of these fields, AI is just going to be tremendously good at. So this is the problem. You know, when software took away our jobs, there were new jobs to go to. When AI takes away our jobs, it's going to take them all. AI should be really good at the stuff that requires a lot of data. And so, you know, lawyers, attorneys, solicitors, you know, that is a data intensive field. You know, you're going to defend a client, you're going to look through all the case precedents, you learn all these laws, you learn all the nuances of laws, local jurisdictions, et cetera, et cetera. That's all data. AI should be really good at that. Creating medicines and curing diseases, AI should be really good at that because it's a bunch of data. What really surprised me is just how good AI has been at what we consider to be the creative fields, like writing. I'm a writer, and yes, AI can write some pretty decent stuff now. It's going to get better and better and better. You know, I'm making movies and films. I can see taking, you know, books like The Lord of the Rings and in, I don't know, a couple of hours, having the entire book with all the characters created perfectly and the story told exactly the way it's told in the book. The art and artists, I really, for many years, I thought artists were safe until I saw what, you know, it's data. Words are data. Paintings are data, graphic arts are data, and AI is really good at this stuff. So it should take pretty much all of the fields. It really depends on us and what we prioritize. Are we going to prioritize, you know, film? Are we going to prioritize art? Are we going to prioritize law and politics? I would love to see, you know, Congress and Parliament go away. I think AI could do a lot better job of allowing people to govern for themselves. And this is really, I think the potential is, it's not just the things it's going to replace, AI is going to replace, it's also the potential. AI gives us the potential of true participatory democracies, not a representative democracy, which is what, you know, governments like the United States and England and Europe have, but real participatory democracy where every person, you know, Congress is in session all the time. And through a combination of AI, blockchain, and, you know, maybe even the metaverse, we can act as our own representatives from, you know, the comfort of our wine cellars. This is where we really need to dream big. This is the potential of AI. I would like to see more people who speak about AI talk about these sorts of potentials. I mean, we literally have a tool that could remake the world a much, much better place. And yet we're using it to create celebrity pornography. If humanity can get its priorities right, AI is going to create the kind of society and the kind of cultures that we as humans can actually be proud of. I hope they take away hope, the idea that we now have this amazing tool that will allow us to, you know, look further into the universe than we have ever looked before, to look further into the human condition than we've ever looked before, to look further into human health than we've ever looked before, and to help us create a society that humanity actually deserves. That's what I hope they take away, is hope.